Hey everyone, I have read your discussion board posts from last week as well as your practicum logs that have been submitted for grading. The discussion board is one of the discussion boards that I think is extremely interesting to read from my perspective. We talk so much about the administrative acts that occur within nursing education and then occasionally criminal conduct that occurs, which is not as often. One of the things that we don't discuss, not in faculty orientation, not in day to day practice, is how we manage student incivility. There were so many great ideas about the causes of incivility. And thoughts about the how we manage that, from disruptive cell phone use to people coming and going in class, coming in late, leaving early, talking in the back row, to as uncivil as the tone of voice or the level of respect that's used between a student and the faculty member. I was really interested to see your ideas about this and what you thought about how you manage that. I loved the idea that so many of you touched on the fact that the first step in managing student incivility was to role model and practice your own civil behaviors. Your classmate Lori wrote in her discussion board that as Christian educators, faculty should promote positive learning environments and lead by example. Establishing respectful professional relationships with students will foster a positive learning environment. Positivity is contagious just like negativity. When faculty see other educators demonstrating positive relationships, they will follow their example. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 25 tells us, anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good work makes him glad. Positive interactions make the educational experience more rewarding for both students and faculty. I love that Lori kind of put the exclamation mark on what so many of you said, which is the incivility culture, the environment that occurs in the classroom can be best mitigated, first and foremost, by our own role modeling of civil, respectful, cordial behavior. The challenge we have is how we manage that emotional regulation, that professional practice, that put togetherness of professionalism when we are stressed, when our workload is heavy, when we're dealing with very specific behaviors in the classroom that exude disrespectful behavior. I think it's easier to be friendly and cordial and respectful and professional when your students are all sitting with their hands in their laps and their eyes are on you and they're captivated by your wonderfulness. For those of you that are in the classroom or in your preceptorships now, you know that is a far cry from our reality. Very often when I'm in the classroom, I feel like I am herding cats, trying to get everybody on first base all at the same time, paying attention to the same amount of information, and dealing with cell phone use, people Facebook messaging each other in the classroom, coming in late, leaving early, getting phone calls in the middle of class, and then leaving because it's important. That phone call, I taught seniors that were getting ready to graduate. So I had them in those last 3 to 4 weeks of getting ready to graduate. So I spent the last couple of weeks in the fall dealing with students getting calls that were employment offers, that were our hospital systems were calling during my course time and wanting to speak with them about job offers or benefits. I really struggle with realizing that these students' lives were going on outside the classroom and that these calls were really important, but so was what I was teaching, so was my content. So trying to find parameters of being able to say, if these calls are necessary, I'm going to ask you to sit on the end of the aisle and keep your phone on silent and immediately excuse yourself from the classroom and move away from the door if you have to have these phone calls. I'd like to say that I was a grown-up and it didn't bother me, but it really bothered me. To Lori's point and to many of your other points, how we handle things, whether things are going smoothly or whether things are a little bit rocky, we are wholly accountable for managing our attitudes, our behaviors, and our responses to students' behavior, even when the student's behavior is not civil or respectful or thoughtful. So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in that. Um, your practicum logs. The practicum logs for 618 are always challenging that first time out. There is so much information that you have to cram in to a log and be able to express your ideas clearly, make sure you've covered all the topics that are required. So if you got lots of feedback, know that you're not alone in this. It is important that you polish your approach to your practicum logs before you move forward into your practice. You've got 618, 619, and 620. So really think about, what's my approach to my practicum logs going to be, so that I can organize the details that need to be in each log and make sure that I've covered them. One of the ways when I was doing my master's degree and my doctoral degree that I handled this was using short headings. So if I knew that there were 5 elements that were required in all of my logs, I made little headings of, okay, this is the element that covers this, and this is the element that covers this. It helped remind me what was needed in each section, and it guided my my faculty member who was grading, or they didn't really grade them, they evaluated my logs, to know that this is what I thought went in this section. An area that's really problematic for students is the integration of prior learning. So often, I think many students get to typing and they're using prior learning, prior concepts, but they're not articulating how what they're saying is related to prior learning. It really is more of a writing process than it is including prior learning. So if you made a small section that included a small heading that said, prior learning, and you covered that topic in what you knew from academic work or from literature reviews or from your own practice, and how it prepared you to be successful or supportive in the practicum environment during that one day, when you kind of corral it all together, then you know, I know I've covered this, I know I've covered it clearly, and it guides your reader. Again, how you want to approach your practicum log is entirely up to you. That area tends to be the one that catches people. Your application section, be sure that you're synthesizing the experiences that you had in practicum, how they're related to your goals and objectives, and directly how it relates to the NLN core competencies. It has to be more than, this was the competency and this is what I did. You've got to be able to connect the dots and provide some synthesis around how you know they're connected. Again, you don't have to write a huge book. Just a couple of sentences about, this is the competency that the goal that I've written or the objective I've written addresses. This is the behaviors. These are the things that I did in practicum, and this is how I know that it's all connected. This takes a little bit of practice. So be patient with yourself in the process, but be intentional about polishing your practice. The sooner you get an organization around your approach to these logs, the more successful that you're going to be. Remember that every log needs to have in-text citations for the NLN core competencies, because you should be using them, as well as any other in-text citations for other references. And you can put those at the bottom of your log in a reference list. And you want to use, the only thing that really matters from an APA standpoint is in-text citations in your reference list. Otherwise, you just need to be using good grammar and spelling. The other thing, be sure that your time logs correctly reflect the time that was spent. Many of you put in your goals and objective development time under the goals and objective column, but did not also include it in the duration column. Your duration column is the roll-up of all the hours that you spent in your practicum setting. So in 620, as you go through that course, we're going to be looking at that rolled up column, that very bottom that has the total, and that needs to be 200 or more hours, okay? So if you've only put them, like if you had 10 hours and they were only in your goals and objective column and not in the duration column, they wouldn't roll up properly. So make sure you can keep them in the goals and objective column, but also put them in the duration column. The same goes for any hours that you use for conference time or research time that have been prior approved. You can put those in that column to further break it down, but make sure all of the hours go in the duration column. If you struggled with that or made mistakes, just correct it before you put in log 2 so that that can be checked off and your hours are totaling the way they should. Okay, I think that's everything from this week. All right, let's talk about next week. Your teaching plan is due next week. I want to remind you that your teaching plan has, it is 10 to 15 minutes. no more than 15 minutes of planned teaching time. If you've not done this before, talk with your preceptor about how much time should this take? What are your thoughts about doing something that's quick? The idea in this assignment is not that you build this massive 3-hour lecture and you cover all these great strategies and you do all these neat things with innovation. The idea is that you begin to develop the discipline and the methodology for creating a structured plan for your teaching sessions. Okay, so you've got 2 tools that are provided to you. The first one is the guidelines for developing a teaching plan. This is the instructions that guide the development of the worksheet. The worksheet is what you're turning in, folks. It is designed not to be a paper, but a worksheet. You're going to open that up as a Word document and you're going to type right into the boxes. I'm going to encourage you to use bullet points because, again, the idea is to give you a tool to use. I use a teaching plan every time I teach. It is not as detailed as the tool I've given you because lots of things I know that I need to do because I've been doing it so long. The idea is as you work through your own teaching skills, you'll fine-tune a plan format that works for you. You're not going to need to have every single thing that's on this plan because you're going to know it. It's just going to be part of the thing you do. Right now, there's really not a lot that's part of the thing you do because you're still learning. So this is a tool. I want you to learn how to use the tool. So I don't want you to be writing paragraphs and paragraphs in the little boxes. It needs to be something that if you were standing in front of the classroom, you could reference bullet points. You could look at it really quick and go, got it, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. If you write a lot of paragraphs, it's going to be harder for you to discern if you were in practice standing in front of a student group to know what are you supposed to do and how do you guide it and to use it as a quick reference tool. So use bullet points, use the worksheet, reference things appropriately. There's a box for everything, and keep it simple, folks. Again, you've got the rest of your practice to develop and polish a 1-hour lecture on electrolytes. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose is to teach you how to plan your teaching plan correctly so that you have some structure around that process and that you become disciplined in your teaching practice. It's a great question to ask your preceptor. Say, do you plan your teaching? How do you plan it? Teachers that have been at this for a long time can use Post-it notes. They know what they're doing and they've got their thing because they've been doing it so long. But everybody has their methodology for how they plan to use their time. I can ramble real easy, so my teaching plan has time intervals. So I know if I have a 3-hour lecture time, this is the point I need to be at in 15 minutes. This is the point I need to be at in an hour. And I try to do that because I think that's respectful of my students to not keep them after class or not cover the content because I've gotten lost down a bunny trail, which I'm really good about doing. So, teaching plan, 10 to 15 minutes. Keep it simple. Follow the process. Don't make this harder than it is, okay? Okay, I think that's everything. I hope you guys are having a good week. Touch base with questions or concerns about any of the feedback that you've been provided. Any concerns, I'm happy to talk with you about. Use the Ask the Professor link for the who, what, when, where, how questions, and then personal things just send to me. Know that I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. In my bubble, I'm Lutheran, so we're well into the Lent season. So I truly hope that whatever your practice is during this during this time of year as we prepare for Easter, I hope your heart is filled and that you are feeling God's grace and His mercies in your life. Know that I'm praying for you, and I'm here to support whatever your needs are. Just holler at me. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Take care.